Is it?
This,
Okay, we can start it whenever.
start my PowerPoint. Okay, great, awesome.
Here's the mic.
The mic is right there? Okay, then I will just stay right here. Okay, so my name is Jennifer Reister, and I am with Career Services. What grade level are we in here today?
They are mostly freshmen, right? Most of them are sophomore.
Freshman, sophomore. Okay, so if you are currently a freshman, then you may have seen me if you have a UNIV class. If you have a UNIV class. I present to a lot of the UNIV classes on campus. So some of this may sound familiar to you, but I am going to go a little bit more in depth as far as preparing for internship information and things like that. So I do always, whenever I talk about career services, I talk about who we are. If you're not familiar with us, we do have a 5-person team, and we have 4 career coordinators because there are 4 major colleges on campus: liberal arts, health professions, science, engineering, and education, and then the business college. And each college has their own respective career coordinator. So I only work with business majors. John, he only works with science, engineering, and education, and so forth. And then we do have a 5th person in our office, Stephanie, and she works on all of our employer engagement activities. So we just had the career fair on the 22nd. So she organized and arranged all of that. She contacted all the employers, did the scheduling, did the planning, and things like that. So she does a lot of our scheduling and planning of events. If employers reach out to us and they want to do some type of information session on campus, she is the person that they initially work out with when it comes to scheduling, but then whatever relevant majors they're recruiting, she always ties us involved too. So if I have an accounting firm that reaches out and says, hey, we'd like to come on campus to talk with students, she'll work out as far as what day and time is best for them and get the room scheduled, but then she always connects me, and usually if we are available, we will serve as the host for that day or for those hours that they're there. So we're always there to meet the students and also meet the employer. So when it comes to our office and what we're responsible for, what we do, we are here to assist students from transitioning from college to career. I have a human development graduate degree, so I can't help but think of things in a development type way. We developed and we moved on from middle school to high school to college, so inevitably it will happen that you will move on from college and enter the workforce. So we are here to help you with that transition process. We provide a full range of professional development services to current students, but our services are also available to alumni as well. So when you graduate, a year later, you're in the workforce, you decide if you want to move positions or something like that, you reach out to our office, you'd like for someone to look at your resume, I would be your career coordinator for that. But we do have those services available for both. We do a lot of activities that are on campus when it comes to professional development, but we also try to get employers in front of students as much as we can. We are somewhat of kind of like that middle ground. We try to translate what the employers are telling us and what they're wanting students to know. But as much as we can get you guys together, that is also beneficial, such as events like the career fair, because you can hear from them directly what it is that they're looking for, right? And I always tell students that your preparation for this starts now, whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, even as a senior. If a senior comes to me and they say, I haven't really done much, what do I do? I'm like, okay, let's talk about all the things that we need to take care of. You have a shorter time span when you get up later to your college years, but it doesn't mean that things still can't happen. Just know that obviously it puts more stress on the student. It doesn't put that stress on me. I'm here to help you in any way that I can. But if you do wait, then it may cause you to think like, well, maybe I should have done this sooner or something like that, right? We want to avoid that. So I always recommend that you get started as soon as you can. So I talked about a little bit as far as the things that we offer, as far as the career events. We do resume development, career research and planning. Sometimes students want to know, what can I do with my major? If you don't know those types of things, you can talk to us. We also do resume cover letter development. I always get real excited about resume cover letter development. When you start applying for internships or jobs, unless you are at a networking event, or if you don't have a connection to a company, say your uncle works there or something like that, the first chance that you have to impress an employer is with a piece of paper. So we want to make sure that that resume is telling enough of your skills, abilities, and things like that, right? I won't go through all of these. We do a lot of things for students when it comes to preparing you for making that step. It's not just about, okay, now I'm out of college, now what? If you are a traditional student and you have progressively moved from grade level to grade level to grade level, for the first time in 20 or so years, you will no longer be a student unless you decide to go to graduate school. So making that transition is different, even to the point of where I know when I first got out, I was like, wow, I don't have a spring break anymore. And I was always used to having a break, right? I had one during high school, I had one during middle school, I had one during college, and I was always used to having a break, and now all of a sudden I don't have a break. I don't have a winter break, I don't have a summer break, or anything like that. Even that is a change, especially if I knew people, because I knew people that were still in college, and I'm like, they're off on spring break plans, and I'm getting up and I'm going to work. And I'm getting up and I'm going to work. I'm getting up and going to work, and things like that. So we help with discussing all of that. So why does this matter now? I always talk about this. Why does it matter now? Because eventually you'll get there, unless you want to be a professional college student, which more than likely that won't happen. More than likely, right? And eventually you will get to the point where you will say, I'm ready to move on. Did we feel like that in high school? We were like, I am ready to go. Ready to move on to that next step. College is a lot of fun. There are a lot of great experiences that you have exposure to. And things like that. You'll meet a lot of new people, make a lot of great connections with faculty, with staff, with students, but eventually you'll move on into that workforce. So how do we prepare to get there? So I always talk about this whenever it comes to preparing for the workforce. What are employers looking for? And typically, they're going to look for a connection and a combination of your technical ability and your soft skill ability. Okay, so those technical skills are those things that you learn in the classroom. You're going to learn the skills that you need technically in the classroom. The excellent faculty here at USI are going to teach you those things that you need to know. When it comes to soft skill ability, employers are looking for a combination of the two. So I have had employers that have told me before, I've had the smartest person in the room, but they couldn't talk to my customers proficiently. They couldn't communicate very well. And so that made it difficult. They were the smartest person. They could always answer every question. They had a solution for everything, but they couldn't communicate to my customers. So that causes an issue when it comes to the workplace. So these are the skills typically that our employers are looking for. And every year, the National Association for Colleges and Employers puts out a list based on a survey of employers and their responses. And these are the 2021 results. So they're looking for teamwork skills, problem solving, analytical, quantitative, communication, initiative, leadership, your technical skills, flexibility, adaptability, strong work ethic, and computer skills. That is what, based on this survey that the National Association of Colleges and Employers did, these are the skills that they're looking for. So how do we get those skills? I always talk with students about different ways that you can do and practice these things. And the main thing that I talk about is get involved. Do things. Be active. Get involved on campus. Join a club, an organization, a sorority, a professional fraternity. Join something. Volunteer in the community. Have we all had jobs before? Have we had a job before? Right? Okay. My first job was at a mom and pop grocery store in my hometown of 2,500 people. That was my first job. My responsibility was to carry out groceries and to stock them. That was my job. No, I'm of course not doing anything related to that, like stocking milk or anything like that. I'm not carrying out groceries here. But in that first experience, I learned how to talk to people. I learned how to work with a team. I learned how to be managed by somebody other than my parents. Right? I had a manager, I had a co-supervisor, things like that. I had people telling me what to do, where to be, how to be, and everything like that. So I started developing that baseline of skills. But when it comes to internships, and why I want to talk primarily about them today, is because employers are looking for that relevant experience. So it's one thing to know that, okay, I don't know what I want to be yet, but I've had a job, so I'm going to learn those teamwork and communication skills on my job, right? That's like my base level of skills, the bottom of the pyramid, at least how I see it. But internships are that excellent source of relevant experience. It introduces you, one, to the world of work if you haven't had a job before. But it's also included with it is work tasks that are related to your degree. And that's what an internship is. You're doing something, you're doing work that is relevant to your career field, or at least your degree, okay? It's an excellent source of soft skill development, the list of skills that we just talked about and everything. And numerous USI academic majors offer credit for internships. So you can actually get course credit for doing an internship. For business majors, there's Accounting 499 that is specific to accounting majors. There is BUAD 499, which is specific to all business majors, and it counts towards your business degree credit. And then there's GENS 399, which is an internship course that is available university-wide for all students. But it counts towards that overall 120 that you need to graduate. Okay? So you can get course credit for their internships. So, workplace experience for new hires. The National Association of Colleges and Employers also put out a survey in 2018 for employers. And they asked them simple questions. Where does relevant experience rank for you? That relevant experience to your degree. Based on this survey, 76.2% employers said that they wanted someone with relevant experience. Skills are great. They are great. But they look for that relevant experience. Do you have some type of idea of what it is that we're doing here? Or maybe a data system that we're working with, or something like that. Maybe it's not the specific data system, but do you have experience working with data systems, right? When I started working here in 2018, I came from Work One Southwest, and during that time, I was a case manager helping students with professional development and finding education opportunities. And I used, throughout my course there, we changed data systems 3 times. We went from data system to data system to data system. I was there for 7 years. When I came to USI, on the job description, it said, be familiar with Career Launch. And I looked up the software that Career Launch uses and its simplicity, and I've never used Simplicity before, ever. But I could show on my resume that I have experience using and learning data systems. And I could talk about on my resume that I have relevant experience because I've had to use data systems throughout my career. All you need to do, essentially what that tells the employers, all you need to do is just tell them how to use it. I can learn, just tell me how to use it, right? So they're looking for that relevant experience. 18% said that they prefer to hire candidates with any type of work experience, so that baseline job, that base skills and everything, you're still important, right? Round up 5% work experience is a typically factor, and then there was no answer to this question for 0.8% of the survey respondents. Okay, so we can see that relevant experience is very, very important, and how we get that is internships. So there are current openings for CS and CIS majors. These are all that I found on Career Launch right now. Yes.
These are local?
These are local, yes. These are all local companies. But I wanted to list their job titles. And this is something, obviously, like that we can go into a whole different lesson about like how to job search and things like that. Because employers don't always label their internships very specifically. MetroNet, for example, they hire a number of different interns in a number of different areas, but they do look for CS and CIS majors. But in Career Launch, it's just listed as the 2022 summer internship. So that title of the position doesn't tell me a lot of information about what they're looking for or anything like that. So when it comes to job searching and things like that, we have to keep our eyes open for these type of opportunities. So if you can, you may want to job search by skill, not necessarily by job title, because if I were to put in data analyst, then I would miss that opportunity. It wouldn't come up in my search, right? Maybe I want to look by skill, or I want to job search by major. You can type in computer science, you can type in computer information systems. When I did that in Career Launch, these positions popped up. But if I put in data, enter something, then MetroNet did not pop up. Right? So we want to make sure that we're evaluating the way that we search our opportunities to make sure that we are finding the ones that are available for us. Yes?
These, just to say the ones I'm interested here, is there would you say there's a bit of a
push more for, I guess, CIS versus CS for certain internships, meaning like do certain majors get priority in terms of that? For example, like I asked over the summer about IT help desk student tech, and they said they prefer CIS majors over CS majors. Does that go for other internships?
It could possibly. That type of information would be found in the job description.
Okay.
So they may specify in the job description as far as what technical abilities they're looking for or what specific degrees that they're looking for. Also in a job description, if they mention anything that says preferred, then if you have those preferred skills or education or something like that, you'll want to make sure that you highlight that information on your resume. Also, if it says preferred, it doesn't necessarily disqualify you if you don't have that, right? It just may take more of it, or we may have to work a little bit harder to give them the opportunity over someone who has something that is preferred. Does that make sense? Kind of fumbled that way. But it would be explained in the job description more than likely as far as what they're looking for specifically. I can't speak to these in particular. I know ECS Solutions, they have hired more computer science and computer information, but it just depends on what's in the job description. Okay? But these are all ones that are current, that are at least posted right now currently on our Career Launch system, which you all have access to through your MyUSI. If you log into your MyUSI, on your apps section, you see a little red laptop logo. That is Career Launch, where you can search for these opportunities. Okay? So, tips for your internship search. When you decide that you want to look for an internship, okay, these are the things that I recommend that you do or that you have. So, one, develop your resume. You need to have a developed resume, and you need to have it reviewed. Have it reviewed by someone that you trust, that knows what they're doing with resumes. There is a lot of information out there about resumes. Not all of it is good. We know that we can't trust everything on the internet, right? Not everything on the internet is true. I have a sister, for example, who is a nurse, and she paid a website to develop her resume. And I was like, first off, hello, you know what I do, I've done it for 10 years now. But she paid a website to develop her resume, and it was one of the worst resumes I've ever seen. Nothing was specific to her about on there. They took generalized information about nurses and put that on her resume instead of asking her specifically things that she had done or learned. And I was like, this really doesn't say anything about you. They talk about nurses, but it doesn't say anything about you and your abilities and skills. So of course, I will say, contact me when it comes to your resume. That's what I'm here for. That's what I review all the time. I actually really, really, really get excited about resumes. I love resumes. They're so vitally important, and sometimes they are overlooked. So I like to count resumes a lot. Content and format are important. So you can have great content on your resume, great information that you're sharing with the employer, but if it is not formatted properly, if there are different formats to things, some of your headings you have underlined, one heading you have underlined and bolded, the other one you do not, things like that, and employers pay attention to those things. So if anything looks out of whack or, disorganized or something like that, then that right there might tell them to put it in the do not read pile before they even get to your content. Before we've got a question. Yeah. Let's see. Does USI have services available to help students develop their resumes? Yes, Frank, they do. Actually, I would be the person that you can contact for developing your resume. We also have some resources on our website as well. But I would be a great person to start with. So emailing me, you can send me your resume, we can set up an appointment to discuss and go over your resume. So yes, we do. Cool, awesome. And then the way that you write on your resume is different than the way that we talk to each other every day. We have to elevate our speech on our resumes. I don't write on my resume the way that I talk every day. We need to elevate, we need to talk more about our skills, we need to use powerful action verbs and things like that. So we talk about how to do that. Become familiar with recruitment timeframes. So I say that because different employers will recruit at different times. There are standards, okay, and there are best practices, but I cannot stand up here and speak for every employer and how they do things. Every employer is different. but there are best practices, okay? So September, for example, is a very recruitment-heavy month when it comes to colleges. Employers attend a lot of career fairs during the month of September. Ours is always in the month of September in the fall. So they may go to UE's on Monday, they'll come to ours on Wednesday, they go to ISU the next week. September is a very recruitment-heavy month. February is also a very heavy recruitment month. So know those time frames. But also I say that because I'll use accounting for example. Accounting, for public accounting, they recruit heavily in the fall and they don't really recruit for internships in the spring. Because what's in the spring?
Tax time.
Tax time, that's right. They are too busy. They are too busy doing taxes to recruit in the spring. So they recruit for their internships, majority in the fall, okay? And they do a lot of recruitment for full-time positions in the fall as well. Even if that student is not going to graduate until May of the next year, they will send out an offer, if they like that student enough, a year in advance for a September or October for a May graduate because they're busy during tax season. Unless there is an immediate need, someone quits, walks out, or just decides to leave or something like that, and they have an immediate need to fill, then they'll take care of it, but for the most part, they stick with that schedule, okay? Be realistic of opportunities available for your current skill set. If you are a freshman, more than likely, a lot of opportunities will at least start to be available for sophomore level skills. They're looking for you to have some courses under your belt before you start that internship, okay? Pick on my accounting majors again. Accounting internships for public accounting, they don't hire them until they're at least juniors because they haven't had those intermediate level accounting classes yet. The same can be said sometimes for CIS and CS. They want you to have maybe some programming language under your belt and things like that. You may not do that in one of your first classes, right? So be realistic of opportunities that are available to you. You may not get that junior level internship when you are a first semester sophomore. So maybe you start off as a help desk person, right? Or something like that. But that's your base level, you're building your skills, and then you can work your way up when you have the education that's needed for those opportunities. Be organized and set a schedule. Cannot stress this enough. Get an Excel sheet, get a notebook, or something like that. Write down the opportunities that you find. Write down if they have any submission dates on there, deadlines. Write those down. Mark it down if you've applied to them. Keep that information straight, because if you find 7 opportunities that you're interested in, but I don't keep track of what I've applied to, when I've applied to, who I talked to, or anything like that, then that can start to get a little jumbled in our heads. So be organized, keep a record of the positions you've applied to, and plan time for your search. Positions are typically posted for at least 7 days, if not longer. 10 days, 14 days. So even if you're like, okay, I'm really busy this semester, but I've got some time on Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday afternoon for an hour, that's when I'm going to do my search. That's when I know that I've got time to dedicate to this. So plan that way out. Don't procrastinate. And when it comes to that, what I mean by that is available internship opportunities can sometimes be affected by how the economy is going. We saw what happened with 2020. What happened in 2020, right? A lot of people, we all got sent home. We found out Wednesday afternoon that we were not coming back the next day here at USI, right? We were sent home. A lot of companies were sent home. A lot of students had their internship opportunities affected by that. They were either canceled or cut short or dramatically impacted, right? And after that, employers did not recruit as many interns because of what was going on economically. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be on the up and up with the stock market and everything like that, but just know sometimes we can get into that habit of, I'll do that later. I'll do that later. I'll do that later. And then all of a sudden it's later, and we're like, oh God, I'm first semester senior or second semester senior, right? Or we get into a situation where there is a downturn or there's something going on that impacts the number of opportunities that are available. Yes?
What sort of effect do you think a 2020 grad is going to have on your resume? As someone who didn't graduate high school.
2020, like graduating in the year of 2020?
Yeah.
I don't think that it's going to have as much of an impact as people worry about. We've had that question as far as like, you know, I lost my internship, so I don't have as much experience on there or anything like that. Because generally, employers,
Oh,
we've
sorry,
all,
I'm in high school, sorry.
What, sorry?
I'm in high school.
a high school 2020 graduate. I thought you meant college graduate
No, no,
2020.
sorry.
Got it, okay. A high school 2020 graduate. In what way do you think?
I personally thought quite positively, honestly. I mean, because it's nobody expected it, and that goes for everybody at that time, obviously. But
Sure.
I mean, it's being a senior at that time was. I just thought maybe when it came to future prospects of college, of work, internship, you name it. Obviously, it's gonna be a little bit of like a sore thumb sticking out on there, I guess. Could be bad, could be good. Don't know. That's why I was just curious.
Sure. I see what you're saying. And I understand. I understand what you're saying. So
I'm not like worried.
when it comes to that, number one, if you were a 2020 high school graduate, then you know right now, still being in college, you still have 2-3 years to work on that experience, right? So you do have that opportunity. And also, like I was saying, the same thing for a high school graduate here, just like for a college graduate. Employers around the globe were impacted by this, right? So they are mindful of the fact of what happened. And I know that because of the conversation that we had with our employers. We started reaching out to our employer partners last year. What can we do to help? What is your situation? Do you need anything? And things like that. And a lot of them weren't hiring at the moment, or they weren't recruiting interns. They were still trying to figure out how they were going to operate their business at the moment. How were we going to make this work? We have to get IT set up. I know here we started having workshops on getting everything on Blackboard because all of a sudden we were remote, right? So we had to put all of our stuff on Blackboard. So generally, when it comes to situations like this, it's also a once-in-a-century event, right, that impacted something globally like this. The other experience that I will talk to briefly that I can think of when we saw something like an economic downturn was the 2008 financial crisis. Now, obviously, we didn't have the pandemic to go along with that, so this is a completely different situation, right? But we had that economic downturn in 2008. That was actually when I graduated college. I graduated college when the economy went in the trash. And so I was like, what does this mean for me, right? So generally, employers, in situations like this, they do have that understanding. But as a 2020 high school graduate, you still have some time to get that experience up, especially because right now more and more employers are back to recruiting. We've figured out kind of how to work and operate and things like that. So they're back to recruiting more heavily. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Okay. I have a chapter, so I'm going to get to this. Yes, absolutely, Frank. I completely agree. So Frank mentioned that always tend to think, within 24 to 48 hours, preferably within 24, if you have an interview. Yes, I absolutely agree. And this is something that I preach all the time. If you do have an internship interview, always make sure that you send them a thank you note. Thank you for taking the time to interview with me today. I really enjoyed our conversation about this. I appreciate your time, things like that. But yes, absolutely, Frank, I completely agree. Okay. Utilize multiple job boards and opportunities to find internships. So, of course, we have the career fair. Go to the career fair and research opportunities there. Use Career Launch, but we also direct students to LinkedIn, Indeed, Google. Those are also reputable sites that post a lot of opportunities. One thing that I didn't put on here, but I will add, is if there's a specific company that you are interested in, make sure that you look at that company website. Sometimes employers won't post positions every year because it costs money to post positions on job boards, right? But they can post the position on their website. So an example that I did with my my other students in my BCom class, we looked at Indeed for different job postings from Barry, and I saw 9 posted on Indeed. When I went to their website, I saw 34. So just, if you know that there's a company that you're interested in, always check the company website as well, just to make sure that maybe they just have an internal application. They don't want to post it on 5 job boards or something like that, so always check that company website as well. One thing that I didn't include on here, I remember typing it and then I erased it, but that I want to make sure that I mention. If you are eyeing a specific time that you want an internship, so say first semester sophomore year, I want an internship that semester, then you need to start looking for that internship the semester before. Because of those recruitment timelines that I was talking about, employers recruit for spring interns in the fall. Employers will recruit for summer and fall interns in the spring. Because during the summer, we don't have any career events. Students aren't here, right? Mostly. I mean, students are not here. So we don't have a career fair during the summer or anything like that, right? So make sure that you're familiar with those time frames and that you start your search early. I'm not saying that opportunities won't be available, but best practice is that you start early. I've had employers that have contacted me and said, hey, we'd like to hire an intern next week. And I'm like, okay, I will post this and I'll send an email out to students and let them know the opportunity and things like that. But that is not the norm. That's not the majority. The majority start their recruitment early. So I always encourage students at least start a semester early if you're wanting that internship. Does that make sense? Okay. So those are my tips for an internship search. I think either the computer's frozen or that's my last slide. I think it's frozen. Nope, there we go. Here we go. So career fairs on campus. We had that one in September. We have our next career fair coming up February 16th from 1 to 4 p.m. The location of that is to be determined. This last career fair, we were in the PAC, the renovated PAC. We'll either be back in that location or we may be in a larger location if we can return to our normal size of a career fair. Usually we would host anywhere from 100 to 115 employers. This year, because of COVID, we were capped at 55. So if we are able to return to a larger career fair next year, then we will look for larger space that will accommodate for that. But the date will stay the same. We plan our career fair dates 5 years in advance. Other colleges do that, so we want to make sure that we're not on the same day as another college. So we plan our events long in advance. So I will take any questions. It took longer than what I said. I had some great questions though. So I'll take any questions. If you want to email me, please do. Set up an appointment with me, talk with me. I always tell students there are no stupid questions when it comes to professional development. We all had to learn how to do this, right? I didn't walk into college knowing how to do all this stuff.
Right.
We all had to learn how to do this. My best friend in college made my first resume because I didn't know what one was. And now I teach people how to do one 15 years later, right? We've all had to learn this. The important thing is that you reach out and that you ask. So you ask about this and take advantage of the opportunities that are around you. Employers will look for this information. They will look for these skills. And when we leave college, your degree is excellent. It's important. Of course it's important. But you'll also be graduating with however many people here at USI, plus the people coming from UE, plus IU, plus Purdue, plus Kentucky, Murray State. There will be a lot of people graduating with degrees. So how do we make ourselves competitive when it comes to getting a job, right? To take advantage of all of these opportunities to do that. Okay? Yes, I love your question. Go ahead.
You might have mentioned this already, but we can sort of take an internship during a semester as a class, almost?
Yes. Yes, you can.
And where can you find the details for that?
On our website.
At career,
usi.edu/career services. Do I not have it on here? I don't. Why do I not have our website on here? It's usi.edu/career services. Or if you have questions about that, you can always email me.
All right, thank you.
When it comes to the GENS internship course, we've signed students up for that. I actually, since it's our office that oversees that course, I serve as the faculty advisor for all business majors. So I'm your point of contact that entire semester for your internship.
I've got a question.
Yes.
What's the difference between co-op and internship?
The difference between a co-op and an internship typically is less time, first off. A co-op can be something to where you take off a semester and you only do that co-op. You only work, right? A co-op can also last anywhere from 6 months to a year. Now, an internship typically is a semester length, or the length of the summer, okay? If an employer decides that they want to extend a person in their internship, they have that decision, that's their call, right? We don't dictate that or anything like that. When it comes to internships, we really don't try to dictate a lot because we're wanting you to get the experience of being in a place of employment. So that's up to the employer. You can take an internship during the semester. You can work out your schedule as far as what hours you work, what days you work, and things like that with your supervisor based on your class schedule and your internship schedule, right? But main difference between internship and a co-op is that internship usually has a start and end date. A co-op is one that's more fully involved, and you can sometimes, a lot of times, you take off a semester to do that co-op. Okay. There are some majors on campus that require those. That's more in the engineering department. The engineers, we usually see engineers with co-ops, or we may see our health professions like nurses and things like that, not called co-ops, but they're clinicals, right? Things like that. Do you recommend trying different internships each semester or stick with one company if given the opportunity to extend your internship? That is an excellent question. If you are given the opportunity to extend your internship, or do you want to search for a different opportunity? First, what I would say is start looking to see what is available. If you know that you want to continue working and to gain experience, you might want to go ahead and look and see, okay, are there other opportunities available? If they are not, then that might guide your decision to go ahead and stick with that company. I don't necessarily think, it's not a bad thing to stay with one company, but also know that there are different experiences in different workplaces. Because I didn't even talk today about how every company has a different culture. Every company operates a little bit differently, even though they may do the same thing. 2 CPA firms, I'm taking on my accounting people. I just finished accounting recruitment, so that's in my brain. BKD and Harding Schmansky. Both do public tax and audit, 2 completely different cultures. So sometimes getting that experience in different locations can be a benefit. Sometimes the challenge level of the work that you're doing may elevate if you're going to a different opportunity. I recommend that. Continue to build your skills and things like that. But the first thing that I will say is if an employer extends to you, have you thought about leaving? Are there other opportunities available out there? If not, that may be a coerce you to stay a little bit closer. I imagine that if they offer to extend, then they want you to and would feel slighted if you didn't. Some employers might, I can't speak for an employer as far as how they would feel. Employers, though, also know and they understand the recruitment process and the internship process. The recruiters do this for a living, right? So they're used to this. They're used to cycling through, they're used to new opportunities, they're used to recruiting and going to events and everything like that. Okay? I hope that answers the question. All right, I know I'm coming up to time, so I'll probably more. If you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, okay? Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you.
Thank you. Let's give Jennifer a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, this is not wanting to exit. There we go.
Yeah.
I'm going to close that. I will take my flash drive. Wow, did I open it? No, there we go. Okay, all right. Oh, it's right there. All right. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Now get out of your way.
All right. All right, guys. I think that's the end of today. I don't want to cover new things, but all I want to say is internship is very, very important because I have some graduates, like one of the students who is very, very good at school, but he focused on school all the time. He did not take chances to develop the internship. So when he graduates, he has no job experience. So he has no job. And I found him in one of the stores, And then he was saying, hey, I'm still looking for a job. If you see any opportunity, let me know. And then he left his own personal contact information. Then that made me feel like I should bring the internship introduction as early as possible. I know many of you are right at that time. If you prepare or plan your internship, say this is the freshman or sophomore, then normally employers need a 2 or 3 years job working experience. So if you starting like the next semester, that will be exactly 3 years, right? So definitely act. This is equal important as your diploma, especially for a computer science major, because we need hands-on experience. Period. Okay. All right, that's all for today. Thank you, guys. Thank you.